Hello, today we're going to be talking a little bit about making your programs do a little bit more than, well, for example, this program just draws a background, sets up a variable, sets a fill color, text size, sets attention, that's that right there, draws a rectangle, and then draws all of that text on top of that rectangle. Now, if you wanted to make this program do more, for example, all of this text I got right here from Science Daily, it's like one of these paragraphs. And so if I wanted to make like a web app that had like a button and I could just click next, 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 and cycle through all of the headlines and read the first few paragraphs all in this one little web app, I would need to make something a little bit more dynamic than what we have going on right here. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about making functions and having a state control variable. So let's actually start with that. Sometimes you can make this a string, sometimes true or false, sometimes you might name it like game state, or in this case it's actually going to be a little bit more intuitive if I name it page. So this is the 0 page of my web app, and later on when I change this to 1, then I'm going to be drawing some other text. So I'm not even reading this, I have no idea what it says. I'm just going to take some text that actually had a quotation mark in it. So when you just copy stuff off the web, you gotta be careful that it doesn't have things like this in it, otherwise you need to escape them so that it doesn't think that this is the end. And that's a backslash. And another escape character that you'll need to be aware of is the \n for new line. And then once you have that, you don't need the return characters that are already in there. So now all of this is one single string that's strung together and escaped properly. For a web app, you'd have to figure out a way to do that algorithmically. If you had a little program going out onto the web and collecting little bits of information, you'd send it to a little algorithm that gets rid of new lines and replaces them with \n and whatever. So the next thing that I'm going to want to do is get all of the code that I want for my I don't know what to call it, for my function, because I need to write a function that is I need to write a function that's a function of text. So display text might be a good name for that, and it's a function of some input text. Now here's a trick I just recently learned. If you select all of this and hit tab, it'll indent all of that nicely for you. I always used to be going along and tab left down, tab left down. Wears your fingers out after a little while. Now I have absolutely nothing displaying, but I have a little bit of more dynamic control over um, my program because I'm starting to get functional. And this is now a function of in-text, but I need to take that variable and I need to propagate it down into the code block instead of being a static thing where it's displaying this variable. It's now going to be dynamic, and when I call it, just to test it out right now, later on I'm going to get rid of these function calls and I'm going to put them into the draw loop. So now I have that original page, but I can do this and get a whole new page. And the text is like falling off of the edge, so later on, if I have time in this tutorial, I might show you a way that you can cut that off after a certain limit and then put a scroll bar in. But first, since going from one page to another is an animation, you need a draw loop. And you need some conditionals. I believe I set that to 0 and not 1. So if my state variable is in the state where I initialized it, then I'm going to draw that original thing. I'll just copy this. If my state variable is in the next state, then I'm going to draw the next text. So now I need some way of swapping from one to the next. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my programs list, and I have some button code somewhere that I'm just going to hijack and reuse. Copy and paste that much over into here, pretty much anywhere, but I like to put, when I'm injecting a whole new thing of code, I like to put it at the very top so that I know where to find it. Now I'm going to go into the draw loop, and below my two conditionals, I'm going to say next.draw. I believe that's what I named the method on that button. So now, as you can see, clicking on it doesn't do anything. So I'm going to look back over here, and I'm going to scroll down and look at the usage. Looks like I need this. It's a little helper function to simplify the logic in the mouse clicked functions. It's just a function that accepts an object so that it can take that object and access like its x and y parameters. So if size Was it next? Now, so if I click on this button, what am I going to do? I'm going to increase the state variable. Let's test it out. Excellent. Now I want to display text instead of true or false, because in that other program I was just displaying true or false about whether or not the function was clicked or not. I don't even need that bool, so instead of that I'm going to input a variable t. Get that variable stored internal to the object, and then go into the draw method of the button object, and instead of displaying this.clicked, I want to display this.t. That was kind of fast. I'll go over it once again. I remove the bool false, and I put t instead of clicked, and then I changed this.t equals t, and then this.t where the this.clicked used to be. So then that changed that to test. I didn't really give a good place for it, but I guess I'll put it up here. I would have rather had it down there, but there's not room on this program. So x, y, let's say 330. Looks good enough to me. This particular tutorial isn't very style based. It's just how do you get the functionality down on how to make things change and be more dynamic. So while that's working, let's try and set up a third page. It's just like from here on out, it's just a process. Like you copy something, you change something, like it starts getting easy the more you do it. So take the first paragraph, I don't think that copied. While I'm doing this, I'm scanning the paragraph for things that I'm going to have to escape, and I don't think I saw any on that one. Switch this to a 3. One, two, three. 3 different pages. And I think I'll leave scroll bars for another tutorial. That's it for this. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.